You're watching CBS 8 Mornings at 6.
We were there locked in the rooms, and the guys were telling us to run out the back doors as quick as we can and run for our lives.
This morning, authorities are trying to determine a motive after a man shot and killed 3 people at Michigan State University. Another 5 people are in critical condition. Police say the suspect took his own life. Police have just identified him as 43-year-old Anthony McCrae. You see him here in the surveillance picture. Authorities say he had no known connection to the university. They have not identified the victims yet. Thanks for being here at 6 a.m., everyone. I'm Eric Connert.
And I'm Netta Irampur. Our other top story today, a high wind warning now in effect. And we're going to check in with Evan because of this breezy kind of icky forecast.
Unsettled, damp. There's a lot of words we could use. I like damp because it doesn't denote that we're getting drenched. But it is going to be one of those mornings where you get a couple sprinkles to start off the morning. We've got colder temperatures. Now, take a look at your forecast for the day. There's a chance that some of those clouds start to kind of break apart at times, but for the most part, we're under a decent number of those clouds. 50s are where we will peak in terms of your afternoon high temperatures. So staying on the colder side of average, 40s for the mountaintops. Here's satellite radar imagery right now where things have been very light. So you can see San Diego County has just seen some light showers up toward North County. We'll walk you through the rest of the day and the wind that we see, which is going to be the biggest impact likely coming up in just a bit.
Evan, thank you. And that wind, yes, impacting East County schools this morning. So a heads up for you. Schools in the Mountain Empire Unified School District will be closed today. These are mainly in the higher elevations, and schools in the Julian Union Elementary School District will have a late start. Now this morning, more than a dozen people in Vista are homeless. They don't have a place to go to because of this. A giant retaining wall collapsed.
Yeah, it left some apartments damaged and without water. CBS 8's Dana Marie McNichol joining us live from Vista now to explain the possible cause behind this huge mess, which you can see behind you.
Good morning, Eric and Netta. We're here at the Las Palmas apartment complex, and you can see the devastation is still really significant behind me. Hundreds of pounds of dirt and mud completely slid onto the sidewalk there. We're learning 4 families are displaced this morning, 16 people overall, but the Red Cross is helping them out. We spoke to some first responders who showed up at the scene yesterday afternoon right away. Take a listen.
Structural collapse of a bank with a mudslide that swept over a sidewalk and into the street.
Now, when firefighters arrived on scene here, they discovered several massive trees had fallen on top of 2 different cars. Now, residents are pointing to irrigation pipes that were buried underneath the area before the retaining wall collapsed. Now, residents we spoke to didn't want to show their face for fear of retaliation from the property manager. They tell us their apartment has been dealing with plumbing issues that sometimes even flood inside their home. Another resident we spoke to is blaming the property manager and says this happened because of a pipe that has been leaking for years. Of course, this is pretty frustrating. City crews have turned off the water at this apartment complex and are working with that property manager to continue repairs and figure out exactly what caused the mudslide, because again, they don't exactly know, but residents pointing to a leak that they say should have been fixed. So a lot of cleanup left to take care of here in Vista. There are cones making sure cars know that there are still areas of mud and debris in the roadway, but of course we're going to keep you updated in terms of that cause and what apartment complex residents say once they move back in. I'm Dana Marie McNichol coming to you live.
Dana Marie, thank you for that update. And right now, officials are investigating a case of Legionnaires disease at San Diego State. The university closed down its exercise and nutritional sciences building, all as a precaution. According to SDSU, the person who contracted this disease is a campus community member who is currently recovering. Legionnaires disease is a severe form of pneumonia. People can get sick from this bacteria, inhaling microscopic water droplets containing what's called the Legionella bacteria. It is typically not contagious from person to person.
This just in here, consumer price is eased again in January, but inflation is still high. Prices rose 6.4% last month compared to the year before. That was down slightly from the 6.5% in December, but on a monthly basis, prices did increase 0.5% from December to January. And new this morning, Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor and United Nations ambassador, has announced her candidacy for president. She becomes the first major challenger to former President Donald Trump for the 2024 Republican nomination. 2 years ago, Haley said she wouldn't challenge her former boss, but now she says she's changed her mind. Haley says the country is in economic troubles and is in need of a generational change. This morning, the San Diego City Council expected to vote on sustainable development areas,
known as SDAs, and this could bring housing density incentives like the city's ADU bonus program to some new neighborhoods, meaning some new units perhaps. CBS 8's Chris Groh joining us live to explain why some are for and against this. Good morning, Chris.
Yeah, and stop if you've heard this before. When it comes to housing here in San Diego, you're hearing some people say yes in my backyard and some people saying not in my backyard.
It's really just our city giving them carte blanche to just build wherever they want with whatever they want.
And so in order to talk about these SDAs and what it is that the city will be voting on today, let's break down what first are the ADU bonus programs. Per the city's website, an ADU bonus is available in exchange for ADUs that are deed restricted as affordable to very low or moderate income households for 15 years. So essentially, if you build an affordable housing unit, an ADU, you can then build another ADU in exchange. Now, if approved, the new sustainable density areas would expand eligibility for the ADU bonus program from a half mile from a transit area to a mile. So that is going to impact the density in a lot of our city's areas. It used to be just half a mile, so that's going to add roughly 5,000 more acres of single family zones into these SDAs. And of course, what you're hearing, as you just heard from that gentleman before, is that those who live in the transit area say that it's already dense enough. And the executive director of Circulate San Diego says these are the type of creative solutions that are necessary to combat the housing crisis.
We just have to do everything we can to make it easier and cheaper and faster to build more homes.
Now, if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the SDAs and what this proposal would bring, as well as that ADU bonus program, you can learn more by going to our website at cbs8.com. As for the vote today, the meeting won't start till about 10 a.m. and generally it does take several hours before discussion comes up about specifically what it is that we've got our eye on for the day's meeting. So stay tuned with CBS 8, especially as we head into our midday shows and beyond into the afternoon to see exactly what the city does decide to do with their vote. Eric Anetta.
Yeah, housing a hot button issue here. In fact, San Diego is a hot spot for high income renters. We're talking about households making more than $150,000 annually. In a new study, San Diego ranked number 7 nationwide for the number of high income renters. The company Yardi Matrix says over the course of 5 years, we saw an 88% increase in these renters.
Everybody knows there's a shortage of housing, especially in California. So what do you do if their housing supply or the housing stock isn't available? You rent.
Well, that expert with Yardi Matrix says while the pricey and competitive housing market does play a role, it wasn't the biggest contributing factor. He says rentals, specifically luxury condos and apartments, offer certain amenities home ownership does not, plus less maintenance. Another factor, he says, San Diego has more high-income earners moving here due to a growing number of available good-paying jobs in the life science field. It's also very difficult to get that 20% down you need to afford a home here with the average price of what, $800-something, $900,000.
That's the
You're
thing.
talking about $150 to $200K in the bank.
You got to be saving up for years on end. Not to mention, so many of the people who would be putting down payments have, student loans that they have to repay. Many things that they are likely prioritizing ahead of that down payment on a house. Here's what we have going on in weather this morning at 6:09 on the clock. We are pointing out 4 different watches, warnings, advisories. And this is not even all we see. I'm just singling out 4 specifically. Along the coastline, wind advisory, that's going to be because of how gusty it's going to get. For your inland valleys, notice the timing on this frost advisory. It takes effect at midnight tonight, lasts through 8 a.m. tomorrow. Any rain that we see for today could freeze over tonight into early tomorrow, lead to slick road conditions out there. Winter storm warning with the possibility of 1 to 4 inches of snow across the mountaintops, and a high wind warning for the mountains and deserts as those gusts pick up to the 60, 70, and near 80 mile-per-hour range. All in all, today is going to be a windy, cold and windy, cold, and showery day, I should say. Those three describers. Here's a live look outside. This is Mount Soledad right now. 6:33 is that sunrise, so we're still waiting on a bit of time before we see any of that light really peeking through. But you can see how dense these clouds are this morning, meaning we won't really see all that much of a view. Sunset's going to come at 5:33. Almanac shows that temperatures are going to stay on the cooler side of average in the 50s, about 10 degrees colder than average. Rain so far this month, even with what we saw on Super Bowl Sunday and Monday, well, we're at about half of what we would normally expect for the month of February thus far. That means whatever rain we get, with all these models pointing to about 1/10 of an inch, maybe 2/10 of an inch, we will likely still remain on the cooler side and on the lower side of average models. So we are going to probably end up around maybe 5/10 of an inch, 6/10 of an inch. If we see that 1/10 of an inch or 15/100ths come to fruition, there's not much of an expectation of beating average so far in the month of February. Next 12 hours shows we hold on to that steady chance of rain throughout the day, about 20 to 30% chance. Traffic on the road so far is light. You can see what those maps look like this morning. So far, no crashes or collisions. You can head to cbs8.com/traffic for the latest. Netta, Eric, back to you.
Thank you so much, Evan.